Hey, welcome everyone back to another episode of Energy Unleashed. My name is Suzanne and I'm with my partner Kim.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing up there in the middle of the North Woods while I'm sitting in the hot city?
I'm so relaxed. I'm almost like don't even know how to have a conversation right now. This will be
Yeah,
an interesting one for sure.
it has been sweltering here and the trees came down in the storm last night like crazy. And I am a huge storm person and I love storms. And but now in the last couple of years when we've lost so many trees and had so much property damage, it's been a different thing where I stand out there and go, please stand up, please stay rooted, please. But the power in that storm last night, sometimes this is when I really believe that there is like a Zeus and a Thor because it's just so magnificent and it is so amazing and it's such great gasoline. So, there's pros and cons to all of those storms, right?
Yeah, I know the front end of the winds coming through were really tough in a lot of different places. So
Yes.
it totally missed us. There were storms north of us and south of us up here. So
Awesome. Good
okay.
job. Yeah. Yeah. All right, I wanted to talk. This is a general one today, Kim, in terms of I find this in the world today, and I do find it weaving in and out of some client sessions. I wanted to talk about anger because everyone's got such a high level of anger, and then I'm going to jump right into rage after that because I think we've seen people enraged more than ever, and those are whoa, just lost my water there. Sorry. Just they are two different things, but they're really not. They're dovetailed, and it's just an exacerbated situation of the first. And so, why would anger be healthy? Is I think what I want to talk about because we always, even in spirituality, in terms of healing and such, there's only two kinds of fuel. One is love, and one is fear. Fear is anger, anger is fear. Blah blah. And I think that there is a positive side to that emotion. I think that it's important for us to maybe just put forward some of the positive elements of this stuff that's flying around out there so that people can go, yeah, I'm really angry. I'm really pissed off. I'm really mad. But is that a good thing? I mean, can I use that for a good thing? Do you ever think of anger that way?
Gosh, I think for me it depends on if it's like anger. High emotion anger that is kind of violent is different for me than that just really ticks me off. And I really don't like what's happening. So what am I going to do about that? To
Hmm.
me, there's levels of it that
Hmm.
are healthy, like parts are healthy and parts I think are very unhealthy. But I also know that people hold in their anger a lot, and that's something that is super unhealthy. So,
Totally, but I believe that our bodies are designed in a way that is really productive for our emotions, and most humans stuff so much of our emotional state. Hopefully, that's what's changing with our bodies changing and our blueprint changing. I believe that we were designed to be emotional, sentient, feel, and we think feel so much. So when we think feel something like anger, it's really can get manipulated and it can get controlled. But
mhm,
if we're really sitting with true anger, it can signal that if something is just wrong. I mean, our body inherently knows something is just wrong with this. And it can be really powerful for you to know that my body, not just my brain, my body is signaling that something has crossed a boundary. You have crossed a boundary. This concept has crossed a boundary. That action has crossed a boundary. And I believe that this is a really good opportunity for us to lock into that and use that, again, human vehicle to be able to say, this is not working. This has to change. So in noticing that it's crossed a boundary or it isn't working, we get to motivate into change.
mhm,
So change can paradigm shift that anger fairly quickly as long as we're not getting in our head again. When we're in the body, it's the best thing to go, wow. And even our chakra systems are really, really awesome because if I'm really offended by something and I'm really taken aback and I'm really pissed off and my throat is so closed, I know it has something to do with
right.
my communication, being seen, being heard, my childhood, whatever. So again, when we can mirror back and forth between, oh, I'm going to use my chakra system and my boundaries of, or my fields of my aura, and I'm going to check my own boundaries and I'm going to make sense of this, it can be really productive, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think it is also a tool for us to be able to go, well, what do I value? Because you can get really super upset at something, and I'm like, whatever, or vice versa, right? I mean, I can be the one in the family that's really terrified and angry and upset about something, and everybody else is, what are you even worried about? So it is a clarification of my value system or my belief systems, which again, I think is critical for each of us to understand. Wow, this really triggered something in my core belief. It doesn't have to be everybody's, but I have the right to be angry. And my daughter calls me out on this stuff all the time. She's like, Mom, so and so has the right to be angry, or so and so has the right to be hurt. And I'll pull out all my healing mumbo jumbo. And she just looks at me, she goes, No, they have the right to be angry. And I'm like, ugh, she's right in that. She
Yeah.
is right in that. And that still is a tough one for me because I believe that this going through anger is going to strengthen your boundaries. You're going to get so much better at it. You're going to discern what's yours and not. And she goes, Sometimes it's just okay to be really pissed. And so, wise words from the young one, right?
Yeah, and like the situations can be so different. So I get where she's coming from. I think for me, I question, you talk about the difference between anger, you're talking about it, you might be yelling about it, but then anger turns more violent, like, or more judgmental or more controlling. There's
Well, I
that.
think it depends on what it is aligning with in the body. And again, this is why these podcasts talk mostly about using your human vehicle to be your driving
Mhm.
force. If my body talking about it is getting more and more pissed, I also want to be the observer of my own body, where
Mhm.
it's reacting, what triggers are happening. Holy crap, am I even hearing that person now in front of me, or is that face and that voice somebody completely different that's talking because I'm triggered into something completely off of what we started with. I mean, this stuff happens all the time. I was with a client that I was saying, you don't even see so and so's face. You don't even see so and so's or hear their voice. I said, you're triggering such and such. And the face on the client was like, oh, God, you're right. Because we don't stay present with our body signals. And I think anger is one of the best ways to really learn the body signals and
Mhm.
be able to have self-responsibility for those. If I'm off and running on somebody, and freaking out and getting higher and higher with my anger, and I'm not even hearing them anymore,
Mhm.
that's some big homework,
Tell
right? I mean,
me, yeah.
that's big homework. And that anger situation in that moment can support, truly, if we do this in a more effective, balanced way, it can support emotional release. It can support trauma release, but not if I'm not present, right?
Right. Right. That makes so much sense. But also your body, using your body, if the anger is being used against you to understand your boundaries and what you need to do with that. Like, I mean, it goes because it's such an emotional interaction
And it
with
can go
someone else.
haywire so fast. I mean, it can just go so fast. We don't even like realize that, wow, I can't even hear Kim anymore when I'm sitting here hearing her yap and I'm yapping back. All of a sudden, I just see my dad, or I see my sister, or I see my, first boss. I mean, we're so
Yeah.
weird about that stuff, and we jump our timelines and we jump our feelings. And it's very critical for us to take pause and to actually just really go, okay, this is happening for me to be able to have a little bit of creativity in how I can step back and go, hey, what do I still need to clear? What am I ignoring? What am I stuffing? What am I triggering? Holy crap.
Yeah.
And or what do I get to do with this? Because obviously it's coming forward in the body because it's the shoe that doesn't fit anymore.
Hmm.
Throw the shoe away and look at the problem. I mean, it's important, right?
Right. And it creates, though, potentially in other people, the fight or flight, which
Oh,
is a whole
totally.
nother, like, then it takes it into that person on the other side, their accountability for what they're feeling and what's getting triggered and all of the things as well. Like
And the
it,
really hard part is when we actually have more people involved, that fight or flight and that triggering and that mirroring can turn, like you said, into really bigger, hotter, not solving the problem, but just hotter hive mentality of, yeah, yeah, she's right. Yeah, yeah, she's right. Or he's right and she's not, and all that stuff. And then rage can come into play. And rage is like a step up. It's magnified, it's hotter, it's bigger, it's nastier, it's more verbal vomit. It's not even thinking, it's total reacting. And I think that that's really what we're seeing in a lot of crazy ways right now.
mm,
What I'm bringing this up for is for when we're watching things on the news, like the horrific, really bizarre crap that's been happening. I mean, it's just nuts. I
And
mean, it's
oh gosh.
I don't usually watch
Again,
the news, and I've been getting snippets lately, and I'm just like, this is why I don't watch. I mean, just crazy shit, you know? Two
yeah.
people walking their two darling little kids out for a little walk through the park, and they get totally slaughtered, and it leaves those two and another sister that was at home total orphans, and there's no reason for it. I mean, this crazy, crazy making no sense can incite a sense of complete and utter rage in us instantly.
Mhm.
Also, because this is not acceptable, kind of a thing, right? I mean, this is so outside of our realm of what a human should act like.
Right.
And we can't get our heads around it. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that raw, utter, what the F is going on here? This is insane. That's going to be more and more because this is cracking open right now.
So when explain that more, cracking open, because there's more of this going on that it pulling more people into
Well, I
that
think it's
place
a
or
combination. First of all, rage is a it's a catalyst for really big shifts, right? I mean, rage is really anger times a gazillion. And so this is, I will not be compliant to this. I will not deny that this is or isn't real any longer. And we were chatting briefly the other day up at the cabin just on other subjects, and I said to you, this is like it's like a piece of this. There's a purpose for rage in the emotional spectrum. There's a purpose for rage during this ascension process because there is nothing that is okay with human trafficking. There is nothing that is okay with, SRAs, satanic ritual abuse. There's nothing about any of this stuff that's being disclosed right now. Epstein stuff is out in the front, then it's in the back, then it's on the back burner, then it's on no burner. I mean, it's just bullshit. And we keep getting taunted with all this stuff. And now we're seeing even in Minnesota, all of the fraud, billions of dollars of fraud, in our own government. I mean, it's just bullshit, right?
right?
And I think what I believe, and this is going to sound, I don't know, maybe controversial, but I believe it's important for some of us sometimes to get to a point of rage, but not out of control rage. Rage to the extent of where it is going to break the numbness of people that something is going to get disclosed, whether it's the church, it's the children, it's the trafficking, that is so effing unbelievable that it's going to shake people out of their numbness. They're sleeping. They're, I don't believe in that. That's not real. That kind of a thing. So that we can use that enragement to find the purpose to say, I will not be compliant to that any longer.
Yeah, this is so interesting that you bring up that part of it because I think it's a power, right? A control.
Hmm.
But because we have been programmed to just accept what's there, mostly, you know, um, the numb thing, that
Yes.
there's many of us that are many people that have been just, programmed to be the numb kind of just it'll be okay. I don't need to stand up for what is there kind of people. I think while rage is really hard to see, it does bring people in that may not have stood up or gotten to a point where they're just not going to put up with what's happening anymore.
Because it hits a core value. It the higher the rage and not out of control, like I'm just going bonkers. That's not what I'm talking. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the fight inside of your own head and heart is what I'm talking about. Not that I'm going to go stab everybody and burn buildings down. It's the rage inside of us that says, absolutely not. I do not consent. The bigger and more bizarre the concept of these things that are coming forward, this disclosure, this finding the illusion behind the veils, blah blah. The bigger they are, the deeper we go in our values. I mean, it's like that is not acceptable. I mean, we're watching, and again, God knows what is real on the news. We're watching all of these things with the trying to feed the children across halfway around the world that don't have one iota of food. And that is disgusting video. It's disgusting. And yet I was looking at video and I'm like, that's the same video they showed before. So do we know if that's real or not? And that is actually enraging to me. The media is enraging to me more so than even the concept that the kids aren't getting food. So When I get enraged about watching that media, I'm like, oh, hell no, because I'm not going to just be a puppet and fall for everything that's showing on the screen either. I'm going to do my own due diligence and feel that and do my own form of supporting something so that I can be involved. But I'm not going to sit there and get angry and let rage turn into anger that turns into stuffed in my body. So, I mean, we can de-escalate from rage, which turns into anger, which gets stuck, and then we're pissed and then we turn victims again. So I mean it's
Oh,
crazy.
right. And then there's the whole financial part of it that and that people start donating money to different
Oh my God.
organizations that are corrupt. It
Yeah.
doesn't even go to the right people. And
Yeah.
that's what makes me angry. Like I
I
just
loved one the other day that was
ugh,
just, begging for money and then I'm going to get some stupid ass shirt. And I'm like, why would you give me a shirt when I'm going to give you my money and you turn around and give me some dumbass shirt that I'm never even going to wear?
right.
And you're spending my money instead of feeding the kid or the pet or whatever I was looking at
Yeah.
to give me a shirt. I mean, it was so bizarre. It just, yeah, it was just so bad. But when we're doing this movement of energy in a constructive way, I think it also moves towards constructive action. I mean, there is nothing about humans that works quicker and faster than watching it go nuts. And then you're like, we got to do something, right?
Yeah.
Because if everything's like, doo, 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 and don't forget on those people that are sleepers, there's a lot of people, and I'm sounding really judgy right now, and I don't even care. There's a lot of people that want to be a sleeper. There's a lot of people that don't want to look at the horrors. They don't choose to look at the horrors. Therefore, they
Mhm.
create a belief system that says that's not even a thing. And I mean, that to
Yeah.
me enrages me in terms of, wow, how can you sit there and ignore something so horrific like hurting children that it's just not even a thing? And
Hmm.
so that part of it is very, very difficult for me. I think what's super important for us is to get tactics, almost like skill sets to deal with these things. I get to be enraged. I get to be angry. It is okay for me to accept that. However, it is critical that I pause and that I go inward with this vehicle and I use my sentience and my feel centers and I get out of my freaking head because, like I write in the empath book, think feeling is not the same as feel feeling. That is two different things.
Hmm.
So think feeling is and I can make excuses and I can think, well, maybe that isn't real, but and that is so ridiculous because we never get down to that guttural rage of this is not acceptable. That's, I think, where the power comes in is that pause and drop
Yeah, and
down.
I feel like we're also I don't want to say victim, but we're also a product of not knowing what's true and what's not.
Oh
And
my
if you
gosh,
what I would hope people do is look in more places than one for
especially
their
traditional,
information,
yeah,
right?
traditional
And then
worldly.
also try to research it a little bit because if you just watch one news channel,
Mhm.
basically, or listen to one type of podcast, you're only getting like one part of the information potentially. And it could be
Yeah,
filtering or it could be real. How do you
yeah.
know? So using your body, can you talk about that more? Like, because it's in your book, I know, but using your body for this more to really shut your mind down a little bit and work through it to see what you really feel.
Well, when we use our body, a lot of different things happen. We can embody the horror of things on behalf of Source.
Mm,
Source energy doesn't have a body to actually have the experience, and that's what we're designed for. We are technically a vehicle that is a fractalization of the God Source so that it can experience itself. The God Source can't know how rage feels about hurting a child. I mean, I was listening to some horrific things the other day about children and just awful SRA stuff. And they kept talking about three. I was three when this happened. I was three when this happened. And I have a 3-year-old granddaughter right now that I just
mm.
equated the feel center of, oh my God, if I found out that someone did something to my darling little 3-year-old granddaughter, the horror that this woman was expressing, I, I was so enraged, like I said. So instead of keeping that inside of me and being angry and just, ruminating bullshit, what we want to do is send to source energy how that is so utterly not okay.
Mhm.
And what it feels like to even hear that, and what it feels like to think of my own, family being hurt like that, and what that woman must have felt like if I can even start to imagine as 3 years old, et cetera, et cetera. So it's moving that information back to the Akashic or the source energy because that's where we want everything housed. This is our big mistake in terms of karma because we never put the information back in the library. And we want it back in the library for the new incarnates and the ways that we're looking at how to change our world and ascend, et cetera. We don't have the information because we just keep it in anger. And so we drop from rage back to anger, stuff it in the body, and we die with it. And then karma just ensues. And that's just stupid. So we're not doing that quite as much anymore. We want to get to the triggers underneath. We want to say, oh my God, source energy. I even triggered when I was listening to this because even at 5, I felt not seen and heard. And this is what it feels like to be not seen and heard and invisible. And then use the body, use the body, use the body. So the clarity that we get when we use our own body in empathy versus empathing it, meaning I have empathy for that woman. I can feel the horror, but I don't take her horror. I pass it through on behalf of it. That's the process that we're here to do. And I believe that this disclosure, this dropping the veils of illusion, this ridiculously difficult thing that we're doing is so important that we open our freaking minds up to that people are horrific. Not necessarily me, not your dad, not your kid, not your neighbor, not maybe your boss or your friend, but they're there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why would I literally numb that out because I don't want to hear it? I mean, I've been out with women before and we were having a great night out and somebody got on something and we started to bring up some of this stuff. And one of them just started screaming, I don't want to hear that stuff. I don't want to hear that stuff. I don't think about that stuff. I don't want, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the red flag that, a chunk, and I'm talking a big chunk of the human race is like, because don't wreck the night, don't wreck the night. I don't want to think about bad things. And I'm like, oh my God, right?
Bad things are out there, and the more outrageous that, whatever it is that's being disclosed, the more some people are really sticking their head in the sand because it can't be
Yeah.
true. How could this possibly happen?
Yeah,
When
how
even,
can we
sometimes
possibly
you're
think
like,
that's a thing?
it's like a Hollywood movie that you just want to turn off because it's so crazy
Yep.
out there that, wow.
Yeah. And
Sorry, that was an airplane.
un, until until everyone wakes up to the fact that A, it could be out there, and then moves into B, it quite possibly is a thing, and then eventually horribly into C going, this is a thing. Um, Even that shift between A and C is shifting that collective frequency of non-consent.
Yeah,
And remember, those people that they have their head in the sand and they don't want to talk about it are by exclusion consenting. And this is what people don't understand. They are literally consenting by saying that isn't even a thing. And that is so completely irresponsible as far as a human, much less as a collective race. It's just not acceptable. And that's how we got ourselves in this mess in the first place, right?
right.
So
So programmed. Oh my gosh. For
it's ridiculous.
thousands of years.
So
Yeah.
I was listening to somebody the other day who said this really funny line, the weirder it is, the more true it probably is.
It's true. It's like, how could that
And
possibly be real? And then you're like,
yeah. And I
oh,
sat there
wow.
and I'm like, oh my God, I love that line because it's like that that's no, that can't happen. And your brain is trying so hard to figure it out and wrap your head around it. And he said it like 5 times during the podcast, and I just laughed my ass out because I'm like, that is so probably the greatest line ever. I think it's a
Yeah.
t-shirt,
Yeah.
the
Well,
weirder
because
it
I
is.
think that I believe that the CIA has totally been involved with like the entertainment business, no matter what you're in, with messages for a long time, trying to
Yeah.
warn us about these things. Not warn us, but they're throwing those things out there in places. And now when something like that really comes to fruition and we see it behind the veil, it's like, wow, how could that happen? You
And
just
then the
don't
funniest
think.
part, even with the guy lately, who I'm drawing a blank on his name, the guy that's in jail right now with the parties. Oh my God.
Did
Justin
he?
Bieber's
Are you
guy.
talking
Yeah,
about
did.
Didi? Did
Thank
he?
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even with him, it's so funny because a lot of people that are more open-minded are like, well, duh. That was pretty obvious. And the people that weren't into it and didn't know about it are shocked, and that they're shocked for about 2 weeks. And then it's like shock wears off super fast because, well, duh, obviously he is into it. So it's interesting to me how quickly those people that sat there and thought that this couldn't be a thing jump camps right away after about a week because something happens in our mechanism inside that says humans can be that vile. But
Yeah.
we don't have it in the forefront of our cognitive head. It floats around in that subconscious back there that is actually maintaining a lot of information that we don't listen to. We
Hmm.
listen to this little tiny percentage instead of all this that's storing for lifetimes in the back of our brain going, of course, this is normal because even in the horrid times of blah blah and other lifetimes and timelines, this isn't that different. That isn't that new. And it is disgusting and it needs to be stopped. And
Yeah.
so I think it's funny how people can jump camps and open up their brain really, really fast if it sticks to it,
Hmm.
you know? But I think the hardest thing is the things like the Catholic priests way back then. It was like, oh, this is horrible, horrible. And then under the rug, went away, never heard of it again. I was shocked that Ghislaine came back into the whole story because they shoved her under the rug for quite some time. So I think it's interesting how people will ride a wave and then they'll get off the wave and then they'll ride the wave and maybe not even know there's a wave. And it's so interesting to me. Humans are just so interesting.
Oh, gosh, yeah. We just need some people to be accountable along the line somewhere with all of this. It just
Right.
seems like a lot of people are, there are people that are getting away with some really serious, ugly things.
Well,
So,
and again, I'm really hoping this message is coming across in the right way, that the only way that accountability comes when it's this thick and deep and embedded is rage. And rage, again, doesn't mean I have to burn down a building.
mhm,
Rage is a personal responsibility of a frequency inside of you that is literally consistently sending out a frequency that says, this is not acceptable.
mhm.
I am not compliant. I will not dismiss this. I will not stick this under a rug. And I don't have to go stand on the steps of the Capitol to do that. I
No.
can do that while I'm watching the news that's disgusting.
Mhm.
So, yeah, this is a tough thing for people to get their head around how to do it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
What do I do?
I know. Well, we've been, trained to feel helpless with no voice, like you
Yeah.
were talking about before. We're not heard. Um, so I get that part of it. And no consent, not consenting is a really big deal. And it took me a while to really do that more.
Yeah.
Because it's not in the forefront, like you said. It's not right here to say, I do not consent.
Well,
I'm
and
right
again,
here to
so
say,
if
I do not
you
consent.
have enragement, use your body and feel like, what does my body feel when I'm watching this or hearing this or understanding this? And it feels like I'm going to blow up, or it feels like I'm hot and, full of pokers, or it feels like I want to vomit. It feels this way, and I will not feel this way because this isn't acceptable. That's the mechanism that we're designed to be, not to shove it down in my stomach and ignore it so I get sick 4 years later. So, these are powers that we have and we don't use them. And until the rage comes forward, the illusion can continue, right? I mean, it's really crazy.
Yeah, well, and I think this rage frequency isn't just people. I think it's our land, Mother Earth. It's part of that frequency
Yep.
affects everything.
And it was what I said about the thunder when we started, and we talked about the rivers drowning all the kids and drowning all the kids from camp. That is not acceptable. There should be protocols. There should be things that are different. On the other hand, not to sound crass, Mother Earth also knows what it's doing because it will rage and it will break and it will shudder and it will weep and it will do all kinds of things. Why? Because love will come forward in mass. Love will come out of every person that has empathy for that and hearts will open. So, this is the way that the mechanism does a rebalancing act just because it knows how. It isn't a pretty way to do rebalancing, but it
Oh
works.
my gosh. Yeah, and moving that sadness through instead of holding it, because I'm the one that has to really work at that. I hold that sadness a lot of times for bigger things and am learning how to feel that and understand that I am so that I can move it through me versus holding it.
And the first step in that, Kim, is your discernment to say, this is not mine. And I have honor enough to let that go to where it belongs. I don't get to steal that. It's
Right.
really difficult. And again, so many times I've been called cold and crass and you have no feelings because I don't hold that as much
Hmm.
because I've always studied contracts and I know that there's a contract behind that and that part of the land needed to do something as well as those contracts of the people, et cetera, et cetera. And
Hmm.
it doesn't mean that there's a coldness and a dissing to anything. It means there's an honor underneath that of the understanding of the way of flow. And these are ways that we can move through sadness. It doesn't mean you diss the sadness, but it moves you through the sadness differently.
Right. No,
Right?
that's
You
a great
still,
point.
I mean, I still, as a mother who had 8 million kids in my yard 24/7, sent up how horrible it is to have a group of children who are wonderfully enjoying themselves be wiped off the planet. And, I mean, I sent that up. I mean, I sent that up because I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we're workers down here and nobody does that. It's just so
Right.
crazy to me, right?
Right. It
So,
is. And again, going back to contracts, that's an important concept to get because it helps in so many ways to work through all of these things. I
right.
just think it's a different perspective that puts you in a different place that's more neutral, honestly,
Right.
where you can take that step back and really consider what's going on.
And honor is a really big word that I work with on almost everything. And it's really honoring also the concept that my body is having an emotional reaction to something. I'm honoring rage, I'm honoring anger, and I'm also examining it, breathing it, moving it through, looking for the trigger, finding the anchor, changing the belief system, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a process. It's not easy peasy by any means, but it is possible. And I'll tell you, it makes life a lot easier, right?
Oh, there's different levels, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and again, not to sound like, negative Nancy, but and poor Nancy, that name got a bad rap. I think it's going to get really tough. Not that it hasn't been already, but I think it's going to be even tougher for a little while. And it's important for us to think about these things as bigger disclosure starts to come. When we have really big disclosure on things that have foundationally gave us our belief system of safe and that gets taken away, we're going to be like, so practice this now.
Right? Gosh, yes,
Practice
definitely.
this
I can't,
now.
I don't even want to know what that's going to be. So
Well, we haven't created it yet, so hopefully
my
you'll
head
have
in the, no, I'm just teasing. I
no
have
head in the
my head in
sand.
the sand.
Yeah. Anyway, I
Yeah,
did. I just thought it was a good one to bring up because there's a lot going on with that right now. So,
there is.
yeah.
It's a really good topic. So, yeah, thank
Well,
you.
you enjoy yourself up there in the lovely weather of the wonderful calm of nature and send some good stuff up to the Akash for everybody else that's rageful, right?
I will. I
All
will.
right. Well, on behalf of Kim and I, thanks for listening to us. What doesn't resonate as always. You can help us out if you would by hitting the subscribe and share button and maybe leave us a comment. The last time we talked about I do not consent, it was awesome. So many people wrote I do not consent in big letters. It was really fun to see. So we're here for you. And yeah, until next time, cosmic hugs.
Goodbye.